Over the last couple of years, the Lions have become the Cinderella story of the NFL, because for the last 6 decades, the Lions were the laughingstock of the league. But in rewriting their legacy, the Lions have transformed from perennial disappointment to a legitimate Super Bowl contender, and this is the story of how we got here. Let's start from the beginning. Before the Detroit Lions, there was a team in Ohio named the Portsmouth Spartans. They were created in 1928 as a pro football team, but due to financial difficulties during the Great Depression, the team was sold to a Detroit radio executive in 1934. That year, the franchise relocated to Michigan and the Detroit Lions were born. In the beginning, the Lions found early success, winning 4 NFL championships during the pre-Super Bowl era. Their last title came in 1957, when quarterback Bobby Lane led them to a league championship. But after Lane was traded away in 1958, legend has it that he cursed the franchise, saying that the Lions wouldn't win for another 50 years. The reality, as we now know it, was even worse. It's been over 60 years and counting. The Lions officially have one of the longest active championship droughts in the NFL. And while many people find it easy to blame the curse of Bobby Lane, the truth seems to be a lot less paranormal. In 1964, the Ford family took over as owners of the team, and they began to treat the team more like a business than a competitive unit. The Lions became notorious for hiring and retaining unqualified executives like Russ Thomas and Matt Millen. They also failed to recognize what real leadership looked like, allowing Hall of Fame coaches like Don Shula, Chuck Knox, and even Bill Belichick to be a part of their organization just to watch them all walk out the front door. Under William Ford's 50-year ownership from 1963 to 2014, the Lions had only 13 winning seasons and just 1 playoff win, making them one of the least successful franchises in all of sports. And for years, the Lions continued to ruin careers. Barry Sanders, arguably the most iconic running back in NFL history, retired in 1999 at just 30 years old, with plenty still left in the tank. He said it was because he was tired of losing, and who could blame him? In his 10 seasons, Sanders rushed for over 15,000 yards and made the Pro Bowl every single year, but the Lions only won just 1 playoff game during that decade. Then, Calvin Johnson, aka Megatron, was next. He set the NFL single-season receiving yards record in 2012 with 1,964 yards, and then retired in 2015 at just 30 years old, citing his overuse and frustration with the organization as his reason for calling it quits. Johnson finished his career with Hall of Fame numbers on a team that just couldn't win. And then, of course, came Matthew Stafford, the first overall pick in 2009, who set franchise records for passing yards and touchdowns, but only managed 3 playoff appearances in 12 seasons with 0 playoff wins. He threw for over 45,000 yards in Detroit, but the team never won a division title during his time there. He was eventually traded away, but went on to win a Super Bowl without them. The lowest point came in 2008, when the Lions became the first team in NFL history to finish 0-16. That season, they were outscored by a staggering 249 points. And over the next 12 years, the Lions struggled to find any level of relevance. But in 2020, everything changed. Sheila Ford Hamp, the daughter of William Clay Ford and Martha Firestone, took over as owner of the team. A direct descendant of both the Ford and Firestone families, this is where the rubber meets the road. In 2020, one of her first major moves was firing general manager Bob Quinn and head coach Matt Patricia and replacing them with Brad Holmes as GM and Dan Campbell as the head coach. Prior to becoming the general manager of the Detroit Lions, Brad Holmes had spent 18 years with the Rams, rising from public relations intern to director of college scouting. He selected players that laid the groundwork for the Rams' success in Super Bowl 56. And now in Detroit, Holmes is focused on work ethic and football IQ. He revamped the entire scouting department and made genius trades, like acquiring the pick that became Jameson Williams and trading away Matthew Stafford to the Rams for Jared Goff and future draft capital. But he wasn't the only man making a serious impact on the team. Dan Campbell, a former NFL tight end, had played for the Lions from 2006 to 2008, and he knew the organization's pain and suffering firsthand. After stints as the assistant coach in Miami and New Orleans, Campbell brought a new culture to Detroit, and in his very first press conference, he famously said, "We're biting off some kneecaps," and the Detroit Lions team quickly responded. Campbell's toughness resonated with the players and fans alike, and a new era had begun. The Lions' rebuild started with the NFL Draft, and in 2021, the Detroit Lions selected offensive tackle Penei Sewell with the 7th overall pick. Sewell, at just 20 years old at the time, quickly became one of the best young linemen in the league, allowing just 2 sacks in his first 2 seasons. Then in the 4th round of the draft, they took wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, who set a franchise rookie record with 90 receptions and has since topped 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons. In 2022, the Lions used the 2nd overall pick to select Aiden Hutchinson, a local hero from the University of Michigan. Hutchinson recorded 9.5 sacks as a rookie and 15.5 sacks in his 2nd year, earning Pro Bowl and All-Pro honors. They also traded up to select Jameson Williams, a blazing fast receiver who, despite injuries and suspension, showed flashes of elite potential. Then in 2023, the Lions added running back Jahmyr Gibbs and tight end Sam Laporta in the first 2 rounds. Gibbs rushed for 945 yards and 10 touchdowns as a rookie, while Sam Laporta set a rookie tight end record with 86 catches and 10 touchdowns. Linebacker Jack Campbell and defensive back Brian Branch, both rookies in 2023, became immediate contributors. Campbell with 95 tackles and Branch with 3 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles. Jared Goff's career renaissance was also a key part of that turnaround. Acquired in the Stafford trade, Goff was seen as just a bridge quarterback, but in Detroit he thrived. And in 2022, he threw for 4,438 yards and 29 passing touchdowns with just 7 interceptions. Then in 2023, he led the Lions to a 12-5 record, their first division title in 30 years, and a playoff win. Goff's completion percentage and passer rating both ranked among the league's best, and he quickly became a leader in the locker room. The culture shift was undeniable. Dan Campbell's practices were intense and physical, and he demanded accountability and treated every player the same way, whether they were a star or whether they were a rookie. And the result was a team that played hard for their city. Their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, became one of the hottest names in all of coaching. His creative schemes featuring heavy motion, play action, and balanced run-pass attack made the Lions' offense one of the most dynamic in the league. And in 2023, Detroit ranked 3rd in total offense and 5th in scoring. Defensively, the Lions also improved dramatically. Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil, Alex Anzalone, those guys all anchored the front 7, while Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph solidified the secondary. The 2023 Detroit Lions playoff run was a historic one for the franchise. After finishing their regular season 12-5, the Lions won their first playoff game in over 30 years by beating the Los Angeles Rams in the wild card round, a win that reignited belief in this team. Detroit then hosted and beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the divisional round to advance to the NFC Championship for the first time since 1991. And in the NFC Championship, the Lions held a 17-point third-quarter lead over the San Francisco 49ers, but ultimately fell short. A huge disappointment, but a real reason for optimism. The next year in 2024, the Lions picked up right where they left off, finishing again with a 15-2 record and winning the NFC North. Jared Goff delivered a career year, throwing for over 4,600 passing yards and 37 touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown became a true superstar, topping 1,500 receiving yards with double-digit touchdowns, while Jahmyr Gibbs dazzled the league with over 1,800 all-purpose yards and 20 total scores. Meanwhile, Sam Laporta set a new standard for tight ends, catching 90-plus passes for over 1,000 yards and 10 more touchdowns. Yet, despite their regular season dominance, the Lions' playoff journey ended sooner than expected. In the divisional round, they were stunned at home by the Washington Commanders and lost 45-31. The loss was a tough reminder that playoff football is unforgiving, and the Lions' young core still has room to grow. In 2025, the Detroit Lions are positioned as a win-now team with a sustainable future, but their immediate outlook is complicated by a brutal schedule and significant coaching turnover. Both coordinators, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, left for head coaching jobs elsewhere, which should come as no surprise considering the team's success. In their place, John Morton steps in as offensive coordinator, bringing 22 years of coaching experience. And on defense, Kelvin Shepard, a former Lions linebacker, takes over as the new defensive coordinator. The Lions are going to need the best versions of these two guys because they face the second toughest schedule in the NFL, with 8 of 9 road games against teams that finished above 500 last season. They play 11 games against playoff teams from last year, including both Super Bowl participants. And this year, the Lions open up at Green Bay, then face a brutal early stretch with road games against Baltimore, Cincinnati, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Then to close off the season, they'll play back-to-back divisional road games at Minnesota and Chicago. Now, despite these challenges, the Lions are still favorites to win the NFC North again, but most analysts predict some regression from last year's 15-2 record, with projections ranging from 9-8 to 14-3 depending on the source. The Lions are built to compete for a Super Bowl now, but their youth and sensible management means that they'll remain contenders for years to come. But this 2025 season will be a true test of their resilience and ability to overcome adversity. The road ahead is brutal, but the Lions are no longer chasing respect from the league. They're chasing glory.